Well, hello everybody from leaving California and hopefully moving on to a new state. It's David Barry, your host, along with my co-host Terry Gilliam. And I guess all's fair, Terry. We spent a little time out west in the Southern Nevada area, and now we're going to your neck of the woods. So we're going down to Orlando, and this gentleman's been with us for a while. Craig Blessing, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, David. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, absolutely. I know that Terry, you're pretty passionate about this Orlando area. What's happening down in Orlando? You're muted.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes, I was testing you. I was born here and went to high school here in Central Florida. But I left for 37 years, returned 3 years ago when I'd had enough of California and have loved being back. There's this thing called air conditioning that they invented several years ago that maybe people in California don't know about because they keep saying, oh, it's too hot. It's too hot. Well, you spend most of your day in air conditioning. I swam laps today in an indoor pool, so and that room was air conditioned. So I have not been outside much today. We have been very hot lately, but we're going to have rain. It looks like most of the rest of the week, and about 8 to 10 degree drop in our high temperatures. So life is great in Central Florida.
Well, before I do my introduction to Craig, it's interesting because we have over 350 realtors in our network, and Terry was telling me that Craig just, he kept on messaging Terry, and Craig said he's got some amazing news from the Central Florida area, and he said he really wanted to jump on our show, so we got him on as quick as we could. And Craig, what have you got to share today with us about Central Florida? Can't wait to hear the news.
Tons. So this is, it's an evolving, market out here, kind of unique to a lot of the country. But kind of going what Terry said, it's been hot out here. But I was doing I actually just got out of the pool about 15 minutes ago. So that's one of the things. I play golf in the mornings. I come home, eat, jump in the pool, cool off, go play with the kids, jump in the pool, cool off. But I tell you, the first summer we got here, it was kind of brutal for us. Moving from Rancho Palos Verdes out here, which over there it's just beautiful every day. So
Mhm.
moving here that first summer was a little tough, but I tell you what, now it just doesn't bother me at all. My family just came out to visit last week, and they were out here, and we went to Disney, we went to SeaWorld, we just toughed it out, and we had a great time. So, but anyway, yeah. So about the market, several people on here follow me. I post quite a bit. I love telling my story. We moved from Rancho Palos Verdes to Oviedo, which is just short of Orlando. We just hit our 2 year mark last month, and we absolutely love it here. We bought a house this past October, so we made Florida officially home for a very long time, hopefully, and I think we settled in pretty good.
It's interesting. The media always kind of beats up on Florida, just like they definitely beat up on California. But Terry was mentioning earlier on our Money Matters show that there's 800 people moving to Florida every single day. And we talk about Las Vegas because that's where I'm at. And we had 100,000 people move to Southern Nevada last year. But all these people that are moving to Vegas, moving to Florida, I mean, and I heard that the media kind of has been saying that home pricing is getting to be unaffordable for people coming to Florida. But yet all these people are coming to Florida. So maybe you could address that misconception. And by the way, we said it earlier today in our early morning show. Don't listen to everything the media says, but go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, that is definitely a fact. Even what people post on social media as well. But going back to what you're saying about people moving here every day, just went on a contract for my member from our Leaving California Facebook group. He followed for years and was, really excited, but, had to put a plan in motion to move here. Everything worked out, sold his house out in the Temecula area, took the proceeds from that house, and we just bought a house out in Lakeland area. It goes to what people are saying. Everybody's thinking, well, I don't have that California money. Neither did this guy either. It wasn't, some extravagant house that he sold. It was very modest, but it's enough, money to come out here and purchase a house at $210,000. So, when everybody's sitting there saying, well, I got to have $500,000, there's plenty of houses, and this is a very nice house. So, It's just what they need to retire. And, we're very excited about getting him out here, and he's bringing his family out here as well. And,
Wait a minute, Craig. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Back up. Back up. Time out. Did you just say $210,000 for a really nice house in Florida? Come on. Come on.
Yes. And it's a beautiful house. He wanted rural. He wanted 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. He had all these things. And I said, man, that's a pretty big wish list for 200,000. And, we worked really hard. And we found the house hit the market at the right time. And here we are. So, he's all excited. He'll be a Floridian here in about a month and a half.
Man, that's exactly what we do, Craig. And it's not about having the $1 million home sales, the $5 million home sales. It's just about helping customers and helping them get what they want. And it doesn't matter. I get just as passionate. Even when I help somebody that says, you know what, we're not ready to buy, we just want to rent for the next year, I will help them do it. That's what all of our realtors do. And that's why Terry has put together such an amazing group of people. Like, we don't care about the number, we just care about the person. We care about the story. And that's why this Leaving California thing is really taken off. And that's why we help so many people. What do you got to say about this, Terry?
Well, it just shows the quality of the level of caliber of the realtors that we work with. Craig's very passionate about what he does. He lived in California. He knows what people are leaving. He understands what they're going through to leave and why they're leaving. And, I know he worked with this client for a long time. It wasn't like that gentleman got off the airplane and said, where do you want to buy? Where do you want to buy? No, he helped him through many months, if not more than a year. He was helping this client get comfortable with the thought of moving to Florida, and then looked at his wish list and found him a great home. Again, 210,000 in Florida. It's out there, and it's not a trailer. It's not a trailer. So yeah, it's out there. And you understand that in Florida, they build houses. It's not like they're just sitting back like California does and says, "Oh my gosh, the poor environment. What happened? What about this snail darter? What about this rat that is? There's only 10 billion of these rats. We may kill one, so we can't build a house."
Yeah.
It's like, you know what, that rat can go live somewhere else. And so we get builders who build houses. We have realtors like Craig who are just wonderful at working with clients, helping them find what they need. And that's why that family is going to be moving to Florida.
Well, another thing, Craig, that I heard that you're going to be able to maybe break this misconception too, that everybody was afraid to go to Florida because the insurance rates are just through the roof. But actually, that may not be true. And again, maybe you shouldn't listen to just one media source. But if you have professionals like me, Terry, and Craig, we can set the record straight. And we're not going to make you make bad decisions. We're going to help give you educated decisions. So what's going on with the insurance? Is that not true, or is it true? What's going on?
No, I mean, so, if you look at the people that have been here for a long time, the insurance rates did go up, especially after Hurricane Ian came through, and so I know how they feel. And so when you sit there and tell the locals, the insurance rate's is good, they're like, well, it's went up a lot. So I do have, compassion for that. But like, in the grand scheme of things, insurance rates are not as high as what people like. I see a lot of posts on, Facebook, and, even in like when you see in the media, like insurance is like 10 to 12,000 annual, that's not the case. You can look at my house. We got a 5'3", 2,700 square feet in Oviedo, and our insurance is $2,400 a year. Now, I would like for it to be less. And then, so speaking on that, article just came out last week. It's talking about how a lot of insurance companies have applied to reduce insurance rates this upcoming year. That was a shocker to me. And this pertains a lot to like the Miami-Dade County and a lot of the coastal areas, especially out there towards like Tampa and Fort Myers. But, eventually it's going to trickle down to the other areas. But yeah, generally that's what the insurance I'm looking for. I just bought actually we were in escrow for a condo in Daytona Beach, where it actually got hammered by Hurricane Ian. Our insurance is going to be $1,400 a year for a condo. I mean, that doesn't seem too crazy high to me. So, when I'm seeing everybody posting, insurance is very expensive. And when I ask them, I'm like, what's expensive? And I never get a reply. And
Yeah.
I'm like, so that's generally what I'm looking at. A lot of the houses around this area, insurance is between $2,200 and $2,500 annually.
You talked about something that we brought up on our show this morning, and maybe Terry might want to touch a little bit more on this because we have our national lender, Monty Feltz, and he was on our Money Matters show, which he is every week. And you had said that one of your clients had, there's two things that I wanted to bring up. One is you said that he sold his house in California and then he bought a house in Florida. A lot of times people think that, oh, well, they sold $1 million house in California, so they're going to go spend $1 million. And that
Right.
may not be the best case scenario. Maybe they only spend it 200,000 and now they have enough money to retire for the rest of their life. And then the other thing we talked about, Terry, you might touch on that, is that we offer a program through our national lender of where you can buy now and sell your other house later. Terry?
Yeah, those programs have been around for a little while, but Monty's company now has that option available to you where you can go look in a market, find a house that you want to buy, and you don't have to have sold your house already. They'll pay cash for that house on your behalf, knowing that with an agreement that you're going to sell your California home and you will use those proceeds to return the payment or the funding that went towards buying your house cash, which puts you in a better advantage. A cash offer on a house is always going to take precedence over a financed offer. And so it allows you to sell your house after you have already purchased a new house. So you're not selling your house in California and going, oh my gosh, now we've got a deadline of when we have to find a new home because we have to move out. Here's our close of escrow. We have to move out. Now we have to find a house. Now you're scrambling to find a house. So I think these programs are amazing. And I think they're a great fit for those in our group who struggle with, I don't want to sell my house and then not know that I have a house to live in.
And by the way, Craig, and I want you to address that too, but when we kind of comically say, because we want to keep the show funny, we know that we can get your interest by saying things that are funny. But when you talk about your mother's brother's cousin's uncle's aunt's uncle's best friend is a realtor and he's only sold one house in the last 3 years, we're kind of saying that to be funny, but we're kind of saying that because it's true. And when you have the right team and you have the right people and you can get educated on what is really the best decision, is it a second cousin that you haven't talked to in 5 years, but he's a realtor in that area, but he doesn't know a lot about relocations. And so by having professionals and having this team that Terry has put together, I mean, it really does make a difference. And at the end of the day, just like our show states, money does matter. So it's really important who you choose, right, Craig?
That is definitely a fact. I see that quite often around here. Matter of fact, one of the members in our church, she just listed her property last week, and so she had me going over there. She wants to because she's going to be living there for at least another like 4 to 6 weeks, and her toilet's leaking. She's elderly, so it's one of my things. I just like to go help her out since I have time during the day, as a realtor. So I went over to go fix her leaking toilet. And so she's talking to me about, the process. She didn't want to go to my church because she didn't want to upset because there's 500 realtors in our 400 member church. And so, she's like, I don't want to go with any members from our church. I don't want to make anybody upset. And I was like, I totally get that. But so I was just asking her how the process is going. And, she's just upset. She went with somebody that, she saw like, the billboards and the posters. And she's like, I'm just going to go with her. And, this lady, she has 500 properties she's selling today, and so she doesn't have that, that intimate connection with the realtor that I think is very important, and so I see it. And of course, I'm not going to tell her, but you got to make sure that you're going with somebody that you know and you trust. Unfortunately, you don't know a lot of the realtors out there, but Terry does. Terry sat there. I had to go to lunch with them. Wait, I think I even paid for lunch, which I think is unfair now to think about it. But Terry, we sat down together and we discussed, what's my morals, what's my, what's my passions, and we had these conversations. So when we walked away, Terry knew, or at least I felt like he knew that, I was going to represent this group, honorably. And so I'm trying my best to hold up to that.
I'll
Go
buy
ahead.
next.
Go ahead, Terry. I know you got more to talk about. There's got to be more than housing. And what else about Orlando? I was there last year with my daughter. We had an amazing time. I love Florida. I don't know if all of our members know this or not. I was born in Fort Lauderdale, so I moved when I was like 10 years old out west. but Florida does have a very special place in my heart as well. And tell me a little, I didn't go to Orlando. I went to Disney World 5 days after it opened, but I think I just aged myself right there. But what else about Orlando, Terry?
Well, let's talk about Florida. I'd love to have Craig. Craig enrolled his children in school in Florida. I would love for him to talk about the programs that Florida has that where you don't necessarily have to send your children to public schools. And Craig, can you talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, anybody that's watching this video has followed a group for a while knows that this is one of my biggest passions. With like having people, family with small children, relocate to the state. To be honest with you, I don't even think a lot of the people in the state know about this program, which is crazy because I mean, it's one of the best things that you can ever provide for your family, for your child's well-being. So anyway, it's called the Step Up program with that's financed through your Florida taxes. So generally every kid is tagged with a tax amount and it's going to go to the public schools. So when I say it's paid by taxes, this is taxes already, segregated for that child. It's just DeSantis and our legislation agreed that the parents get to decide where to send the kids. So, which is great. So our kids, we applied for it. Within 3 days, they were approved. We are not low income, so it doesn't, we don't make a lot of money, but it's not income based. Everybody I've known that's applied for it gets it. And we are sending our kid to a private school down the street from us. It's one of the top private schools in the area. Actually, it's one of the top in the state. The tuitions for their age group is $13,000 annually. The state covers 10,000 of it. Yes, you heard that right. And I have 3 boys. So quick math on that. I mean, I got some toes down here, but that's $30,000 a year for our kids to go to this private Christian school, which is, I mean, it's just truly amazing.
That's
You know,
awesome.
Craig, it's funny and we're all parents, all 3 of us are, and Father's Day is coming up. But I had a mom on the show months ago, and I always talk about this story because it really touched my heart. And we actually had a mom that was in California. She was in tears on our show saying, I can't do this to my kids anymore. I just can't. I cannot put my kids through California high schools or California education. And they're going so far the wrong way that she got emotional and so having options and again being able to talk to people and figure out what's out there and what do different states offer and maybe just a part-time realtor that works in a restaurant or whatever he does doesn't matter. He just is not a full-time realtor. He's not going to stay in tune and stay as educated as us on these topics. So you might miss something by not having the right realtor. But that's a great story. And man, 3, my daughter just graduated last week from high school, and I only have 1, but 3, that's a lot, Craig.
That's a lot. That's a lot of mouths to feed and a lot of Costco trips. So, the $30,000 helps. But even on top of, so getting the story out and telling these people, we have another member coming from the Facebook group. He's flying out actually next week, and he's touring some local Christian schools that he's going to be sending his kids to. So, I just want to make sure everybody's completely aware of this. You may hate Florida's weather, but we have a lot of things to offer around here. One of it's making sure your child is given a very valuable education.
Well, and
Well,
one thing to think about that, the reason Florida can afford to do that is right now, last I heard, they have a $15 billion surplus in the budget. I can't remember, does California have a surplus or a deficit? Oh, that's right. It's like between 40 and $70 billion deficit this year because they just can't stop spending. So.
Well,
Yep.
Craig, I know that you had a bunch of things you wanted to talk about. In our general topics, we talk about education, we knock that out. We talk about what are some of the fun things to do in Orlando. And if you haven't never been to Orlando, maybe you've been living under a rock, but most people have been to Orlando. So what's to see? And then job opportunities. We always touch on that. We touch on the weather. And just like Las Vegas, Orlando has 6 months, maybe probably arguably more than 6 months of perfect weather, and you got to pay the price in July and August. It's just like that here in Las Vegas. But man, I'll give up 2 months to have 6 or 7 months of perfect weather. So talk about job opportunities. And for those of people that members that maybe haven't been to Orlando, what are some of the things that you have to go see and do?
Yeah, so when me and my wife were trying to decide, where we're going to relocate, we narrowed it down to three states, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Florida. I love all of them, for different reasons. But when I was telling my wife, of course, I said, I have to have a beach. I was like, here's her long list of things that we have to move, where to move to. And mine was like beach. And so she said, okay, we'll move to Florida. And we started looking around, and she decided, Seminole County was going to be it. And reason why we landed on this area, which Seminole County is just north of Orlando. I mean, I could throw a rock and hit it. It's only a 25-minute drive. But the reason why we chose this is because, it's a 45-minute drive to the beach where we're at. It's just enough time to where when our kids are done playing, we can hop in the car, they can nap, barely get a 45-minute nap drive, back home. And then like I said, we're 25 minutes from Orlando. So, the kids, we have the theme parks. Like I said, we went Disney, we hit SeaWorld, and we did a couple of things in Orlando. Plus, my wife and I, we like going to musicals and plays and all that. So you still have like all that kind of stuff that you had in Los Angeles. All that stuff is still here. So we have all the entertainment as well. So that's kind of why we landed on this area. And then, not to mention, it was something that we learned after we moved here. But there's an airport that is north of Orlando, Sanford Orlando Airport, and it has direct flights to every airport that Orlando doesn't service. So just about every time we were flying somewhere, it's a direct flight. I flew to Little Rock to go see my parents in Arkansas last week. It was what was it, $110 a ticket, and it was a hour and 45-minute flight.
Mm.
So those are just a couple of other things too that are huge bonuses about living here.
And talk about job opportunities. I know that there's a lot of jobs down there, a lot of opportunity for people.
Yes. So coming from Los Angeles, I worked at SpaceX out there in Hawthorne. And so a lot of the rockets that we built out that way, about Cape Canaveral launch. So there's a lot of aerospace on the Cape, and a lot of people commute. So here in Oviedo, we have tons of people that commute out to the Cape. So you have all the aerospace jobs out that way. You have a lot of the contractors that service all the aerospace. And in Florida, obviously, we're a retirement community. So there's hospitals everywhere, and there's a huge shortage of hospital workers. We also have a huge shortage of teachers. The state got flooded with a lot of people, and it's evident. You can just drive around like short little trip, and you can see that the state just wasn't prepared for everybody moving here. But they're making a lot of strides. It's a lot of construction going on, but there's, like I said, a lot of constructions. Lots of new homes being built all over the place. So there's way more jobs. Actually, I had a guy from California, from this group. He moved out here. He's renting right now, and he moved out here without having a job, without anything. And he's like a nervous wreck because I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, with your skills, which he was in remodeling, construction, in that field, he wanted finding a job 3 days after moving here, and he's still working with that company right now. So there's tons of jobs. We need people to come out here with skills.
Well, Craig, I don't know if you know this or not, but fun fact about Terry, he worked at Disney, and I think you were one of the first people that worked there, Terry. And so I know that you were kind of passionate about Disney back then. I don't know what it's like now, but tell us some other fun things about, because you are a native, Terry. What's
Please tell me
like?
you're a cast member, like Mickey Mouse or Goofy or something.
Sure. Yeah, 6 foot tall Mickey Mouse. Sure. I did. I will tell you, I applied in December of 75. I was 16 years old. I did apply to be a character, but I didn't dance well enough. So they said, how about foods? And so I went into Tomorrowland Terrace, was my first job, worked there for a couple of years during high school. Absolutely loved working at Disney. Today, you couldn't pay me enough money to work at Disney because I don't want to work around women who have mustaches. That's what they have out there now. They let the women have mustaches because they aren't really women, they're men, and they can do anything they want to. And don't get me started. The other thing I wanted to talk about also, just back to what Craig was saying, there's also University of Central Florida here, which is very near Craig also, actually between us. University of Central Florida is probably top 2 or 3 of a size of all public universities in the country. I think there's 50,000 students out there. And there's a lot of, they have an incubator out there too. So they do a lot of technology, a lot of aerospace. I know that there's a company out there that is growing leaps and bounds. That's working on the driverless cars. and then lots of other technology. I know there's a lot of defense contractors out there that are doing private-public partnerships with the government. So there is a lot of jobs here in Central Florida. You don't have to go out to Disney and or SeaWorld, although that's certainly an option. So
Yeah, it's so important. And again, back to what I said before, that we deal with relocations every single day of our life. We help people pick up and move. And this is a big decision. I mean, this is not something you take lightly. We had I think, what was it, Terry? Did we have somebody that was, they had been in California like 72 years, and they decided that it was time to go? Like, this is a big deal when you're leaving a place you've been in for over 70 years. Do you remember that story, Terry?
I don't off the top of my head, but I see it all the time. I see people who have been there 50, 60, 70 years, their entire life, and generational. I see people who say, I'm a fifth generation Californian and I'm getting the heck out of here. And let me just share this real quick. So I watched Tucker Carlson's interview of the president of El Salvador, and he actually addressed this issue. He spoke about California and the demise of California in the interview, where he said, I heard it took $15 billion and 10 years to build 600 meters of track in California for that high-speed rail, which, again, it's tens of billions of dollars over budget. It's at least 10 years late. Right now, they're still trying to complete an absolutely useless piece of track between Fresno or Bakersfield and Merced. Who needs a high-speed rail between Bakersfield and Merced? And the fact that they continue to justify this, and now they're talking about the big tunnel. They want to put all those aqueducts that move water from North California down to Southern. They want to dig tunnels and bury all of that stuff. The reality is, what they're doing is they're just trying to give union jobs to the unions that elect them. And that's called crony capitalism, or crony government ism. And that's all they're doing, is they're just wasting taxpayer money. And that's why California has the deficits it has. It's an absolutely unsustainable situation that they have going. And let's also remember, they have estimated $1 trillion unfunded pension liability that they don't know where they're going to get the money for that. I saw last week, let me just add to this, there are over 1,800 people retired in California from the government who make over $200,000 a year. And some make over 300,000, and one person I saw makes over $400,000 a year as a public servant, serving the public, making over $400,000 a year in retirement. Over what's 40 grand a month in retirement.
You see what happens when I get Terry started. See, it's my fault. I take the blame. I got him started, and then once he gets started, he can't stop. There's just too many things, and there's so many good reasons to leave California. And as we always finish up the show, and since Craig is an actual person that left the Southern California area and moved to Florida, if we know that we've got coming up on 300,000 members. There's a lot of people that are on the fence and they're not sure and they're scared, and you should be scared. I get it. It's a big decision. Craig, what kind of, in wrapping up here, what kind of advice would you give to our members to let them know what is it like on the other side? Or if they're really sitting there thinking, God, I really know that I should leave, but what would you tell them?
We did the same thing. We were living in California. We're happy. Before we'd have kids, our blinders on, we're just looking straight ahead. We're going to the mountains. We're scuba diving. We're loving a life. But when you have kids and you living in California, you're stepping over to homeless. You're struggling to make the bills meet. You're figuring out how you're going to get your kids in private schools away from all the brainwashing. So you just kind of got to think, what's more important to me? And, for a lot of people on this group, a lot of them are families, they're trying to get out of there. And my advice to them is do it. If you're questioning it, there's a reason why. And, it's going to be difficult. My wife was homesick for about 3 months. I think one of the key things is, you got to get involved in your community. If you're religious, you got to get involved in your church. And whenever you're having your doubts, you got to remind yourself why, why'd you leave? I consider leaving California like breaking up with an ex. You kind of look back here in a couple of years, you're like, man, we had some good times there. But then you got to remember, oh man,
Yeah.
you were a wreck. So, you got to keep that in mind.
Mm.
The it's definitely greener on the other side. Our family's tighter. My wife and our marriage is much better. I mean, we're happier. It wasn't problems in the past, but I mean, we didn't know it can get this good, and just seeing our kids involved in sports all the time. Just this past Sunday, we had 10 kids in our pool, 8 of which were neighborhood kids. I got close bonds. As a matter of fact, one of the families we bonded with out here from our church, they are now the godparents of our children. So, I mean, it just shows you within 2 years how much can change in your lives. And I just can't imagine, this happiness being in California.
Craig, I'm gonna have to steal that one, man. I've never had one of our realtors get on here and say that. So it's just like breaking up with your ex-girlfriend. And man, we had some amazing times, but whew, thank God I'm not with her anymore, and now I have this new relationship. I mean, that's just a great way to put it. And it is, we never had anyone tell us or call us back and say, gosh, why did, you kind of convinced us we should leave, but we're miserable. We got to get back to California. It was so great there. Never happens. They just say, I wish I would have done it sooner. And as we wrap up this amazing show, and thank you again for last minute joining us. And we're really happy that you could join us and share some things. Can give your contact information so people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so of course you can go onto the Facebook page, look me up, Craig Blesson. Please send me a message. I will respond very promptly. But if not, give me a phone call, 407-744-3739. Even if you just have questions, like curious, what is Florida like? I love to chat about it. I love telling a story. So reach out.
Absolutely. And Terry, anything in closing?
No, but nothing more than come check out Central Florida. I really think there's a lot of places to see. You can live as close or as far from Orlando as you want to, still be in Central Florida. Florida has built a ton of freeways so that you can be literally an hour from the airport, but you're 60 miles from the airport. So you can get there via a freeway that will get you there, but you're living further out in the country, maybe like the client from the group that wanted to be rural. They can be rural, but you know what? They're not that far from the airport. And, Lakeland's got an airport now. So come to Central Florida, check it out. Come to Florida and check it out. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at what you see.
All right. Again, I'm your host. I'm David Barry at Las Vegas at davidbarryrealtor.com. If you have any questions at all about relocations, you can contact me. You can message Terry. And for sure, if you're going to Florida, even if it's not in Craig's area, you can certainly call Craig. He will definitely share with you some great advice on how to get from one coast to the better coast. And we'll talk to you soon. And to all of our dads out there, especially Craig and Terry, happy Father's Day this Sunday. I hope you enjoy a great day with your family, and we will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dave.